the next topic I have is around slave profits and those who profited from slavery. What responsibility do they have to our society today? So when we think about slavery, when we talk about slavery, for the most part, the focus is on the cruel, harsh, inhumane treatment of the slaves, of the industry of slavery itself. I certainly do. I can't speak for everybody, but I certainly do not think a lot about what the economic impact of it was. How many people it enriched. And so we have this misconception that it was just the slave traders in the South that benefited from slavery, and it made tons of millionaires of free labor and exporting cotton. But this was something that the whole United States was benefited from. So even if you were in the North as a business person, and you didn't have slaves on your plantation, but you had you profited from it. You're selling slave life insurance policies. You're doing all sorts of other things. So this came to my mind because the other day I was thinking about like what would my last name have been, right? If
X.
Now I'm talking way before then. Like if Mr. Walters,
whatever your slave master's last name was your last name.
Yeah. So I said, if slave master Walters didn't come and own my people, what my last name have been? You know what I mean? So I was thinking that's what got me thinking about slavery to begin with. And a cousin of mine linked me up and showed me some documents about like when the first people in our family came from Ghana, right? So I was thinking about that, and so I came across an article, I think it was in the Guardian in London, where they're talking about all these British companies that well-known British companies, Lloyd's of London and Bank of England, benefited majorly from the slave trade. So I wanted to find out, similarly within the U.S., which companies that we know benefited majorly from the slave trade, and what responsibility do they have today, that can never make right. But so here are a few, like New York Life, insurance company. They sold slaveholder policies in the 1800s. It's still in existence today. Tiffany and Company, they were originally financed from profits from a cotton mill, from the slave trade. Aetna, everybody knows Aetna. They insure the lives of slaves.
Sure, yeah.
Brothers,
I remember that.
You know what I mean?
How about any company that has any kind of relationship with prison systems? That's the name.
But the thing is, so that something like the prison system, that's direct, right? But so we think about their companies. I want to list off all of them, like J.P. Morgan, AIG, USA
I was about
Today,
to
Bank of America. They all benefited from that industry. So let me just ask the question. So slavery was an institution that made the U.S. the economic power that it is today. Many people benefited off that. Many companies that are still in existence today by the overall system that didn't happen just at the governmental policy level. People benefited from that. So when we talk about like reparations and that sort of thing, it's more mainly talk about what responsibility does the government have, but beyond that, what company does industry have? What responsibility does industry have? They benefited majorly. They made millions, billions, and pass it down to their people, and put their people in power and what have you. So what responsibility does U.S. industry have today in trying to make rights based on the sins of their forefathers? So that's the long ass question.
Woo! So I'll start. So first I want to say capitalism today basically was born on the back and the blood, sweat, and tears of slavery. If you think about, I'm going to say a large majority of the financial institutions that you just named, Bank of America, Chase, and all these people, all had direct impact on slavery, and it carries over to today. Now, the thing is, I do believe all these companies do have, they do have a responsibility, but how do you quantify it is the problem. You know, how do you put a price on it? You know, you can't, you know, so I think, let me see, I read the other day, everybody knows about 40 acres and a mule, okay? And
you don't need no mule.
That's why people today talk about reparations.
40 acres and a Benz.
So, or what they say, make Cadillac the #1 dealership in America. They say that, let's see, 40 acres and a mule today would actually equal $6.4 trillion, okay? That would be roughly $150,000 per Black person today, right now today. That's what it would equal. So, yeah, you'll take, but is that enough? I mean, if you think about the things that they went through, I mean,
absolutely
families were separated. You know, children were taken away from their family.
Women
so it's how do you put a price on it? Now, I do believe they owe us something, but again, how do you quantify it? And the companies that actually benefited from it, for example, I think Lehman Brothers, I think it was in 2008, they folded up, but they were a big contributor to finances during the slavery times. And it just so happened in 2008, I think it was during the mortgage financial crisis, what may have you, they folded because they were giving out, you know, bad loans, what may have you. But again, it's just kind of hard to quantify what we would receive or what the responsibility is.
It will never be enough, ever.
I agree.
Something, yes. But I think I'm get back to what C-Dub was saying about these companies and how can they, what responsibility would they have or should they have today, you know, investing in HBCUs, allowing opportunities for minority employees and promotions for minority employees, investing in Black-owned businesses. I mean, especially, you know, companies like banks and of that nature. I think JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America was one of them. Aetna, horrible insurance.
Hey, we may need a sponsorship from Aetna, so anyway.
Oh, I know. I actually have Aetna. I'm sorry, guys. Thank you for, yeah. You know, maybe some kind of increase in medical insurance, something, you know. I mean, there are multiplicity of ways where you can invest back into our communities. And I think, you know, maybe they should consider those type of things because those are actually realistic things that and practical things that they can do today in today's time.
Right. I agree with you fully. Not only is it you know, pretty much impossible to quantify how much, you know, would each person get. I don't think that would be the most you know, beneficial way of doing it. I agree that it should take on done at an institutional level, right? Because I mean, a lot of people think that it was just slavery, and then slavery ended, and then okay, you know, since 1865, then we're good to keep. But
Everything was all good.
Systemic policies ever since to try and, you know, keep us back, keep us in our place. These systems were set up, you know, so. Yeah, so I think it should look like, you know, investing in HBCUs, investing in
scholarships,
Black communities, and scholarships. Exactly, you know, those sorts of things. You know, my scholarships, and you know, investing in businesses. You know, contracts for
quotas.
Black-owned businesses. What do you say?
The quotas. getting a whole bunch of us in there.
A lot of them do those sort of things, but it's just enough to like keep us off their backs to say, hey, see, I did this. We're not.
Yeah,
you know.
I have black friends.
Exactly.
I think it should be basically. I think it should be mandated, right? I don't think it should be just because we feel like doing it, right? I think there should be a tax. You know what I mean? Of all companies, of a certain age, whatever. However you go to determine fits in that bracket, where this is going to be mandatory for you to pay because it is the whole institution of the United States that created these systems that benefited you and against the interests of millions of people. And because of that, yes, you'll never be able to completely make it right, but you have to pay this tax. And we're going to use this money to try and better these communities. You know what I mean? So I think things like that have to happen. So I think we all agree that they do have a responsibility. How you quantify how much it is, I don't know. That, those things can be negotiated. But Bank of America, Wachovia, AIG, USA Today, Brooks Brothers, a lot of these companies that we all know and support. I have a Bank of America account right now. You know what I mean? So
Bank of America
companies
Chase.
that we all support on a daily basis. We didn't even know that, I certainly didn't know about Bank of America. So you'll hear a lot of pushback from, a lot of people, a lot of white people today who say that, hey, I wasn't involved in slavery. No, I'm not saying that you personally are responsible, but you benefited from it. You benefited from the institution and other people were hurt by it. Therefore, you have a responsibility. You being a citizen of the United States who benefited from this, you have a responsibility to do right. So, I think that's important to understand. Slavery was obviously, we know a horrible thing, but it didn't just all end at slavery. I don't know if you all have seen the Netflix series
13.
Black AF.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious too. But at the beginning of all episodes, they say what it's about. It's always something about slavery. Because there's so many things, like because of slavery. So many things that we don't even, we can't exactly quantify, but we can trace back to that history. And, because of that, people benefited from it and people suffered from it. I have to make it right, as much as
once again,
and try as much as
you guessed it,
possible.
it's because of slavery.